Okay, I think we're starting to get most people online, so we might get underway. I said in the message that I sent out that today was really an opportunity to celebrate Matt's life, and so we're all gathered here to do that today. But as a matter of housekeeping, I thought I'd mention a couple of things that are happening. So our nearest toilets are just out here to the right, in case you need those at any point in time. We also have a live stream going on at the moment, so hopefully all is well with the live stream. But yeah, that's for people who weren't able to be here, because obviously Matt's life spread far and wide, well beyond Australia. If the stream does drop in quality for those at home, there will be a recording of this as well, so you'll be able to grab a copy of that later. For those at home, I also sent, if you registered, links to the videos that we play, because obviously watching them from the angle up here might be a little bit hard. So in the lead up to the videos, I'll let you know when they're going to be on, and you can queue those up and play them at home as well. You'll just need to mute the live stream so you don't have the echo. Okay, so I guess we'll get underway. So welcome friends, family, and people from all over the globe. Today we come together to celebrate and share in the life of Matthew Glenn Munting. Son to Sue and Robin, brother to Amy and I, husband to Petra, brother-in-law to Samantha, uncle to Isabel and Cohen, nephew and cousin to Mick, Tam, Jason and Sam Wyatt and the whole Munting clan in Melbourne, and of course a great mate, or in his words, broy, to countless people in more countries than I would be able to fit in this introduction. We hope the celebration today provides an opportunity for some closure, but also a moment to adjust our perspective and to bathe in the love and laughter that we all took from our days with Matt. Hopefully, we'll be able to point our focus away from the unthinkable accident that brings us here, and instead onward to all the opportunities that await us in the days and the weeks and the years ahead. Okay, I'd also firstly like to start by thanking all the speakers who are to come for their bravery and their willingness to share with everyone today, and thank all of those who made the event possible. In addition to the service sheets that most of you grabbed on the way in, and I sent to online attendees, we also have some stickers that we got printed. You might want to put them on a car, on a bag, on a backpack, wherever you want, that just kind of capture the legacy of Matt. I've sent some overseas to Skydive Dubai, so if you're ever passing through there, you can grab a copy. And Petra will also take some home as well, so next time you catch up with her over there, you're welcome to take some too. If anyone would like them posted, please just send me an email and let me know, and I'll make that happen. Okay, so today's service we're breaking into three distinct sections. So first we're going to start with a moment to look back on Matt's childhood and the moments that formed him into the man that we all knew. We'll then share his early adult years and the explorations of the sea that took him far and wide and helped to build his courage and bravery that we all admired of him in his final years. The third and final section will explore that pivotal moment that helped Matt find his calling, his passion, and his deep love for the sky and the mountains, and that made certain that he would cross paths with his beautiful wife, Petra. Whichever angle you look at it from, this life story will leave us all scratching our head, asking ourselves, how is it possible that a life so rich, containing so many achievements and so many adventures, was able to fit into what is ostensibly only half a life? It is essentially maths that just doesn't add up. But there might even be a slight twinge of regret in all of us as we look a little internally and realise that days spent in front of the TV have possibly robbed us all of the opportunities to grab everything that life throws at us. Because we certainly know Matt didn't spend a day in front of the TV unless he was forced to. Either way, we should all leave here inspired to live a fearless life, one that acknowledges life's fragility and equally impressive abundance. In taking this sentiment, we ask that you commit to charge through your life with the same determination Matt has shown us. Because in the words of his best mate, Nick, he never had a day off life. So neither should we. To begin the story, we're going to roll the clock back to Sunday, November 30, 1986. In Frankston Hospital, a small seaside town near Melbourne in Victoria. Matt made his entry into the world and his birth increased our family population to 5 and began a childhood filled with fun and free-spirited adventures. From day one, it was clear he was going to be a chilled-out kid, and I selfishly claimed him as my sidekick, which is the way it stayed for the next 17 years. We shared a room and everything that was in it for that whole time. And throughout those years, we shared so many experiences that would prepare us for the years ahead. To help us reminisce about these golden and carefree years, I'd like to invite our mum, Sue, supported by Matt's godmother and mum's friend of 50 years, Debbie. And then following her, Matt's uncle Mick, auntie Tammy, and cousins Jason and Sam, aka the Breaker Brothers, will come up to share their memories of Matt as well.
Wow, Christopher, you're a hard act to follow. Amazing boy you are, my boy, and I decided when I worked out my speech that I would I wanted to do the thank yous first because I thought that I would be more together in order to do the thank yous at the start. Obviously, I was a bit wrong. I don't know that I'm going to be together much at all, but I'll do my best. And now the bloody tears are messing up my reading ability. Okay, get yourself together, woman. All right. I'd like to begin by thanking my son Christopher for his amazing work on all the IT and putting together today for his brother, my daughter Amy for all her efforts with our travel arrangements for Italy and support, all the amazing skydiving community who helped us in Italy, including Herman, for all his financial assistance, Nick, Dana, Marketa, Lenka and Honzo for their support in holding me up when I felt so low most days in Italy. Sandra, Di and Chris for the beautiful memorial candles for the family. Michael and Andrea for the fabulous photos of our Matt, the beautiful white one over there, and the ones that I've given to the family. And for taking photos today. Vivian for all the packets of tissues, 72 packets of tissues on every chair, for very, very practical. And unfortunately, poor Viv can't be here today because she was potentially exposed to COVID. And we miss you, Viv. We know you're out there. And thank you so much for the tissues. I think I'll use the whole lot. I'd like to thank all of my friends, colleagues, people from all areas of my life that go right back, a long, long way back. I've heard from so many people that it just blew my mind for the messages of support, the cards, the flowers and the love. I'd like to highlight and thank the Ladies Who Craft group, who I became part of when I moved to Madawi, for accepting me since moving here and giving me such love and support when I lost my dad and again now. You ladies are the best and I'm so lucky to have you in my life. For all those today attending online or in person, thank you for being here to support us as a family at this very sad time. We couldn't be more grateful. Thank you to some very special people. Debbie, Gail and Andrew for taking crying calls from me at all times of the day and night from Italy and since coming home. You got me through a very tough time Finally, thank you to Petra for her love and support and sharing this very sad time with me, both in Italy and here in Oz, as we grieve together. I look forward to taking the journey Matt had planned for us in October with you in the Yellow Beast. Beautiful girl. We're going to kill it. All right, now, just let me clean my notes. I've written this, and I said to Petra I was writing it to my son. So I couldn't write it any other way. My darling Matthew, you came into my world on November 30, 1986. You're a wonderful 29th birthday gift for me. Being born 4 days before my birthday, my bonus baby. We have always had a spiritual bond from the time of your birth and a simpatico, both being Sagittarians, free spirits, with a passion for exploring the world. You were an angelic baby, so easygoing and adaptable. You had to be, as I had 3 children under 4. From the very first day you were born, you would sleep from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., never waking for a night feed, just so your mama could get some extra sleep, having 2 other children. And I must say to Mandy, as the midwife, I did tick off the midwives for not bringing him to me for a night feed, but he never woke up for one. Now can I find my spot again? On one occasion, your brother was very sick with asthma, and I had to take him to the doctor and then hospital. You were due for a feed at 4 hours after I left home, but I was stuck at the hospital getting your bro admitted. I rang Auntie Tam multiple times, who was caring for you, to see if you were crying for a feed, but no, you continued to sleep. 8 hours after I left, I arrived home, and as I came through the front door, you began to cry for a feed. I was blown away that you had gone that long without a feed and that you knew your mama, the milk bar, was back. Your brother and sister loved you very much. Amy liked to look after you and your bro, and you loved to create mischief together. You didn't walk till you were 13 and a half months, unlike your brother, who was up and running at 9 months old, because you only had to grunt and point, and your siblings would come running with whatever you wanted. Once you got the hang of walking, the fun began with you and your brother becoming partners in crime. One of your favourite things to do was to play in my Tupperware cupboard. I would often find you with the door open, pulling it all out on the floor and sitting there playing amongst it. As you got older, whenever you needed to calm or feel comfort, you would come to me and ask me to tickle your back, which meant a gentle light massage with the fingertips. And you calmed whenever I did it. Some of your happiest times were in Apollo Court, where you met the Simons boys. You formed a strong friendship instantly and the 5 of you spent every waking moment when you weren't at school or sleeping, playing all forms of sports, including cricket, football, mostly basketball, and most importantly, basketball. When Big Al threw the first ball at our basketball ring on the front of the garage every morning, the sound reverberated through the house and the chorus of "Big Al is out there" rang from you and Chris before you ran out the door to shoot hoops with your idol, Big Al, before school. Where are you, Big Al? You're there. There you are. These games were training for your weekend basketball matches that your dad coached and I team managed. You loved your basketball and you were very good at it, winning several runner-up and MVP awards. Another favourite activity you boys had was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where you would dress up as the Turtles and Amy and Big Al would oversee the activities of the younger ones. Alan, Amy, Chris, Brenton, you and Todd became a very tight group over the years. Sadly, Brenton passed away when he was 16 from cancer, which was life-changing for all of us. I'm sure you and Brenton are now up there shooting hoops in heaven together again. In year 8, you came to me one day and asked me to go for a walk with you for a chat. You asked me not to get cross with you, which I promised not to do, so off we went. I asked what was troubling you, and I giggled to myself when you said, "Mum, I've been bad. I had a cigarette." And I asked how it went for you, and your response was, "It was awful, Mum. I chucked." You looked at me expecting me to be cross with you, and I just looked at you and smiled, saying, "So did I when I tried a cigarette. You were like your mama." You were so relieved, and we giggled about it as we went home, with you saying you would never smoke again. As the years went by, when I was raising you on my own and your brother cooked up some mischief together, buying a Labrador puppy while I was away for a weekend conference, keeping a snake in the wardrobe that your mama and Amy didn't know about, and taking the piss out of your mum any chance you got, but all the while loving me and each other. On occasion, if I made a call not to let you do something you wanted to do, I would find a letter under my pillow when I went to bed telling me that my decision was not a good one and could I please change my mind, finishing by telling me you loved me so much. Even at a young age, you were a great negotiator. In your final years at high school, you did exceptionally well despite messing around and talking a lot in class. You were good at distracting others. You once said to me that you were not as smart as your siblings, which of course I refuted. But even with not putting in a great deal of effort in BCE, you managed a 90 enter, which was amazing. You grew into a beautiful man who needed to explore the world, telling me at 18, Mum, I can never work in an office, so I'm going to TAFE and study dive resort management. You subsequently worked as a scuba dive instructor, ran Orpheus Island for a time, worked on private yachts in the Caribbean until you found your passion for skydiving in Chicago. You left home at 20 to travel the world and have been away for 15 years, apart from visits home for medical care and mama nursing. Your injuries began at the age of 16 when you spent 5 days in the Alfred Hospital after a football match, hip and shoulder injury, which led to a fractured clavicle that was resting on your carotid artery, your first life and death situation. As a result, you lived like a boy in a bubble for 3 months at home, not allowed to go to school or play in case the bone punctured the artery. Eventually, it moved up away from the artery and life returned to normal for a time. The next major injury was a broken leg when skydiving, which you flew home from Chicago with after leaving a message on my phone to pick me up at the airport and take me to the Alfred for repair, which I duly did, then nursed you at home with a leg in plaster in my 1-bedroom apartment for 8 weeks till you returned to Chicago. The next mama nursing came when you had a rare condition called Paget-Schroeder syndrome, which led to a clot in your subclavian vein, bleeding into your chest cavity, a collapsed lung, and ending up on life support. During that time, I lived with you in Dubai for 1 month, renting an apartment and nursing you back to health to enable you to fly home to Oz with me. It was then that dear Petra came into your life, often visiting us and sitting with us by the rooftop pool until we returned to Australia. Once again, we lived together for 4 months, during which you had a shoulder repair because you had to sit around anyway, so you may as well get that fixed while you're here. In a 1-bedroom apartment in Australia, with me setting up a sofa bed for you every night and Petra coming to visit whenever she flew into Melbourne for work. Doctors in Melbourne told you to give up skydiving and become a monk after this illness, but you basically gave them the bird and went straight back to your passion. And the other thing that he did was I woke up every single morning to a whoosh, whoosh, whoosh of the skydiving, watching it on his laptop because he couldn't fly. Following all the health issues, you showed true grit and determination to go on and achieve a place on the world record in the 164 head-down event and a Guinness World Record for the longest indoor skydive of 7 hours. And you came second in the speed flying in China in 2018, behind the Green Man, which you were super chuffed about. Your relationship continued to blossom with the Fox. I remember you contacting me one day and raving about her and saying she was the coolest chick you had ever known. You married July 9, 2019 in Prague, making both families very happy. It was an awesome, great fun wedding, as it could only be with someone as fun and happy-go-lucky as you, my son. And from that day to your very sad passing, you never stopped loving your Fox deeply and loving life to the fullest. Your mumsy is so proud of the man you grew to be and all you achieved in your fast but short life. You lived every minute of your life to the fullest. You were a man of great humility, determination, kindness, generosity, fun, and with a massive passion for life. You chose a beautiful wife in Petra the Fox, the perfect woman for you, your soulmate. I feel such immense grief at your passing, but mostly for Petra and your lost dreams. It breaks my heart, and I don't think I will ever recover from your devastating loss. as your mumsy. My darling boy, you will be forever missed by us all. But we will try to live on without your smiling face and crazy antics. You were a man much loved by all who knew you around the skydiving world, as well as your wife, mumsy, family and friends in Oz. Your footprint across the world is huge, and it makes me so proud that my boy has had such a huge impact on all who knew him. Fly free, my beautiful son. Rest in peace till your mumsy can meet you again. All my love forever and always, darling boy. Gone too soon. Never forgotten. You will live on in our hearts forever. Yo.
My turn. I hope I do as well as you.
Because I can't do any more, I'm done. I'm spent.
Okay, whoops. Sorry, Charlie. As you all know, my name's Debbie. This wonderful girl and I have been friends for 50 years. Golly help us.
And we're not that old. We met when we were 5.
Yep. What I'm going to read here is what Sue would have wanted to say, and she just couldn't deal with it. I don't know how I'm going to go, but if I do half as well as you, I'll be pretty proud of myself. One of the most tragic and traumatic losses life can deal out to a person is the death of a son. The death of a son means the loss of more than just a precious life. It represents the loss of future experiences and future hopes. No parent is prepared for the loss of a child, and when it happens, their world is changed forever. The grief, guilt, and anguish felt are acute and lasting. Parents can find comfort in knowing that their grief and mourning are normal, and that many other parents have lived through similar tragedies. And this is to Matt. Dearest Matty Moo, no words I write could ever say how sad and empty I feel today. The angels came for you much sooner than I planned. I'll brave the bitter grief that comes, and I'll try my best to understand. Why did you have to go away? Why wasn't it right for you to stay? In my heart you will always be. I love you dearly, and I know you watch over me. What I'm suffering seems so unfair, but one thing is for certain, my love for you will always be there. My son, you will always be the most important part of my heart's memory. I'll cherish the moments I held you in my arms. I'm sure that if you had stayed longer, you would have graced me with your charms. 1,000 words won't bring you back. I know I've tried. Neither will 1,000 tears. I know because I've cried. Now you're up in heaven with the angels up above. They will take my place for now, and they'll give you all their love. So go and rest in peace, my son, so dear. For all my love and memories, I will hold forever near. Thanks, Susie.
Okay, I'd now like to ask Uncle Mick, Auntie Tam, Sam and Jace to come up and say a few words.
G'day everyone, I'm Uncle Mick, and we're here to celebrate Matty's wonderful life that he had, and this is my lovely wife Tammy, and Jason and Sam, my 2 sons. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a little bit reverse order. We're going to start with the youngest member of the family and go through to the oldest. So I'm going to ask Sam if you wouldn't mind stepping up and just...
Sure, I'll break the ice.
Thanks, mate.
Cousin Matty, you mad rooter. What a fearless legend. He was like the older brother that never beat me up. Teaching him to ride my Pee-wee 80 was one of my first memories, the whole time running after him, yelling him to slow down. But that was never a word in his vocabulary. We ended the lessons 5 minutes after, with him and the bike in the creek. Got off to a great start. He got his second motorbike off a good mate of ours. The first time he rode the bike, he experienced an almighty fright from the power on the bike, and the sound the mad rooter made was twice as loud as the bike itself. As soon as the front wheel landed to come back down and the legs back on, he swiftly returned to camp with the whole front grille breaming ear to ear and spat out, "How's this thing, Mule? It's a hairy goat." We used to take road trips in the bus with the cousins. After the hours of sitting in the back on the couch with no seatbelts, we would quickly resort to giving people a show at the back of the bus. It started off with a wave, but if they didn't wave back, within 0.4 of a second, there was Maddie and Bro's white ass beaming them in the eye. As they overtook, they would give an almighty death stare to Mum and Dad at the front of the bus, not knowing what was happening down the back. You could always rely on Maddie. The mad rooter, to check in every once in a while to see how the family was going and make sure my head was screwed on straight. Always the optimistic Maddie would able to lend a different perspective on any situation. My wife and I got the chance to experience Dubai and Matt Munting's way of living in the amazing city. A few key things that stand out: being in the car to go pick up Petra from the airport and him saying, "Man, just don't say anything. Just don't stuff this up." I didn't stuff it up. Matty almost getting kicked out of the nightclub for kissing Petra later that night. And his little crazy Polo that was lucky to do 90 down the Freo with cars doing 300 Ks around us. And the wind tunnel, it was sick to experience, his life and what he did in that tunnel and the way he loved to fly. He was always an inspiration. He never took no for an answer. If he saw something he wanted to do, there was no stopping him. From working on ships with choppers on them to the wind tunnel, he never stopped chasing his dreams. He also taught me my first fishing knot, which we used together to catch many great fish. It never broke like our friendship. Love you too, Rowie. You were the greatest inspiration in my life, Cuz. You mad rooter, Matty. Bombies for days. Love you. Fly safe, my friend. You!
Matt Munting. Hi everyone, I'm Jace, Matty's cousin. I've had the pleasure of running around with Amy, Matt and Chris from the time we were all just little kids. So I just wanted to share a few of my fondest memories of growing up with Matt. Just recently, after his passing, I was watching Matt on YouTube and heard him mention pumping the poodle, which took me back to the days when we'd all stay at Grandma's house. She used to breed poodles, and they'd all sit around Grandma while she was organising dinner, and we'd sneak in behind the poodles and start stomping our feet at them as if to pump them up, and they'd show some teeth, and then all of a sudden they'd be out chasing us. Jumping off Grandpa's pool while he wasn't watching, he had his back turned and he'd hear the splashing and then turn around and we'd all pretend we were just swimming around and not doing much. Spending time with him riding dirt bikes on the farm was a really good memory. When he started scuba diving, he brought his scuba gear around and taught me how to dive in a pool. And then shortly after that, I remember Dad came home from a fishing trip without the anchor and the winch on the front of his boat. Matty wanted to help, told Dad he could dive down for it. And Dad's response was, "Matt, it's in the middle of Port Phillip Bay." So they set out the next morning, and to my disbelief, they came home with everything they'd lost the day prior. Matt's dedication to what he did made him so successful. He had so much to give and so little to take. Truly one of the most humble human beings that have ever been to walk this planet. I could spend hours with Matt and it would feel like minutes. His smile was infectious and brought laugh and happiness. Matt, if I've ever learned anything from your passing, it would be that life is short, so do the things you enjoy with the ones you love. You'll be sorely missed and never forgotten. So rest in peace. I'll see you up there someday, Matty.
Hi everyone, Tammy, Matt's auntie. Like all of you, we're just, yeah, it's just what it is. But I found this poem and I immediately thought of Matt. It's called The Mountain. So, if the mountain seems too big today, then climb a hill instead. If the morning brings you sadness, it's okay to stay in bed. If the day ahead weighs heavy and your plans feel like a curse, there's no shame in rearranging. Don't make yourself feel worse. If the shower stings like needles and the bath feels like you'll drown, if you haven't washed your hair for days, don't throw away your crown. A day is not a lifetime, a rest is not defeat. Don't think of it as failure, just a quiet, kind retreat. It's okay to take a moment from an anxious, fractious mind. The world will not stop turning while you get realigned. The mountain will still be there when you want to try again. You can climb it in your own time. Just love yourself till then. And Maddie loved everyone, and we loved him. So, yes.
Good job. G'day viewers, and I'm Uncle Mick, so look out. I better put my glasses on so I can read what I was going to say to you. Okay. Matty was born with a buck tooth and a cheeky smile, and he had a hell of a stutter. In the early days, he used to struggle to get the words out, and he got to a stage in his life where I think he was about grade 5 and he was still struggling a little bit, and you can imagine the magic word was just too much for him, you know. So the boys and I decided we'd get him in the shed and we'd work on this for him because we lived on a little farm and no one knew, you know, we'd be out in the shed there. And so we tried everything from slamming his finger in the vise and belting it with a hammer and everything else to try and get it out. And then eventually, boom, there it was one day. Fuck, he came out with it. It wasn't fuck anymore. So from that day on, it was fuck this and fuck that. You want a cup of tea, Matt? Yeah, fucking oath, mate. I'll have one, you know. So he was just an absolute cracker. And then, you know, as life went on further, we had lots of trips to the farm, and Matty was up for anything, you know, like Matty was just up for fun. So the bikes, the boats, paddock bombs, bonnet surfing, fishing, you know, he was just a hell of a guy to hang with. And I remember we spent 7 hours on the road one day towing a boat all the way down to Malakuta, and we got there and it was getting close to dark, and I said to Matty, you know, do you want to put the boat in? He's like, yeah, mate. And I said, but you've got a broken leg, like your leg's in plaster. And he's like, doesn't matter, mate, you know. And I'm like, righto. So I said, you jump in the boat and I'll back you in and we'll go for a run. So we do this and we go roaring out the entrance and we go halfway to Gabo, and I said, oh, well, we better go back, Matt. The sun's going down. He said, hey, you'll be right, bro, you know. Like, I said, all right. So we gun it back in, full noise. We come in through the entrance and I got the sun in my eyes, and next minute I've landed the boat right up on the sand, you know, beached it. And Matty and I just sit there and look at each other and piss ourselves laughing for about the next 2 hours. We just sat there waiting for the tide to come back in, and then we eventually backed the boat off the sand and we went straight to the pub, and we had a great big chicken parma and a couple of beers in front of the fire, and that was the type of guy he was, you know. The other thing I loved about Matt was he had his own dialogue. Like he invented words, and he was so creative. He could just make everyone laugh and giggle, and some of those things have just stuck with all of us. It's become part of our lives, you know. And I remember there was a time back, Matty was in town, and I think he'd just come back off the boats with Travie, and I said to him, mate, I've got to put a shed up at Malakuta. And he goes, oh, I'll organise the boys. Let's all get together. So Matty and I get in my Kenworth, my big truck, and we put a scissor lift on the back, and we drive 7 hours up to the farm. And Travie and Brent met us there, and we rode the bikes for about a week, and we had this great big barbecue we were cooking on every day, you know. So we had snags and, you know, bacon, eggs. You should have seen it, because I'm not sure if it was you, Travie, or Brent, but one of you boys could really cook, you know. So we were living like kings. Anyway, we had to dig 5-foot holes in the morning, and I was, 5 foot deep. And I said to Matty, hey, mate, we've got to knock out a couple of holes in the morning. He's like, yeah, no worries, Uncle Mick, where do you want them? You know, that's the type of guy I was. Straight on the shovel, into it, boom, digging the holes. Anyway, we get up in the scissor lift, and Matt's shitting himself. Like, we're only 40 feet up, and he's squealing like a baby. He's like going, oh, guys, don't stop, put it down, you know. And this is another example of Matt, of how he just overcomes his fears, because he hadn't even started skydiving and doing any of that yet. You know, this is when he'd just come off the boats, and, all these wonderful memories. But I get this phone call one day, and it goes something like this. Hey, Uncle Mick. I said, yeah, mate, how's it going? Yeah, not bad. I met a girl. I said, oh, you met a girl. Well done, mate. He goes, she comes from Prague. Have you ever been there? I said, no, mate. He goes, most beautiful women in the world come from Prague. I said, good on you, mate. That's the way. He was an absolute cracker. I've never met anyone like Matt. I probably never will. Just his zest for life, and, the way he could just translate to people and make people happy, like he just had a natural ability to make people shine. Bloody mad bastard. Like everyone else, I can't believe that he's slipped off the side of Mont Simon. It's an absolute tragedy, and we've all lost a good one there. But I know when my time comes and I get up there, and it will come, it'll go something like this, You walk up those 10,000 steps, there's St. Peter standing there waiting to greet you. G'day, Mick, you made it. I said, yeah, geez, it's a long way though, But I'm here to see Matty. And he'll say, thank Christ for that. The party hasn't stopped since he got here. And I'm like, right, well, I'm going to give him a fairly good kick up the arse for leaving early. But, he's just over there teaching all the angels how to make wingsuits. So, I don't know, you guys, I just think we should all probably, if you want to, raise your hand, and we'll do 3 big U's for Matty on the count of 3. You! 1, 2, you! On you, Matty, we love you. Oh, thanks, guys.
All right, so we've got the laughs underway then, which is good because we've got a few to come. So memories are really those special times that we attach meaning to. They're the things that usually are attached to an emotion or a sensory trigger that helps to bring them back. But as time goes on, we have to try super hard to dredge up what is distant as it fades in amongst the many daily inclusions. That's where photographs and video become so special. And I have really clear memories as a child of a certain human blowfly, aka Dad, Robin Hunting, his whirring black camera permanently affixed to his right eye like a prosthetic for most of our family events in the late 90s. And if you attended Matt and Petra's wedding, you'll no doubt have recent memories of this. Only the black camera was replaced with an iPad. But this happy snapping of Mum behind the camera and Dad in the video with the video camera made the following video possible. and I'm incredibly grateful to have had the opportunity to make this. It's only the first of 3 videos that will chronicle Matt's 35 years in today's service. And while making it was equal parts painful and joyous, I hope that you all get the sense that I had while I made it, that they were carefree golden years. I remember wishing them away when you're racing to adulthood, but now we can all take time to go back there, and I can't imagine a better place to be. In the interest of public disclosure, though, I should warn that there's a touch of full frontal peen in this video. But I mean, as is customary, siblings are allowed to embarrass the shit out of their siblings whenever they can, so that's what I plan to do. But I watched it back afterwards and realised that I actually cocked up, because I am well and truly embarrassed in this video, just as much as he is, so enjoy. So take a step backwards for a little while. I watched you with eyes you drove away. I didn't know that it would be your last time with me. So I promised Mum stop putting us in the bath together at an appropriate age, but there was certainly a lot of bath photos. I had to cut them all out. So Matt had many broies over the years, and it's true that what one of these broies, Mark Norman, said to me recently, and I quote from him, that everyone likes to think they had a special relationship with Matt. That's the light that burns so bright in Matt. He made everybody feel that way. I think you can all relate to this in some way, but Amy and I are truly blessed to say he was our actual brother by blood. As time passed and distance grew between all of us, Amy and I watched on with pride and admiration. And I think social media sort of attests the fact that we were some of his biggest fans. I'd like to ask Amy now to come up and share some thoughts about how it was like, what it was like to be a rose between us two thorny characters.
Okie dokes. Okay. So, Matt's sister, the biggest sister, the oldest sister. So, firstly, I want to begin by thanking all those who've travelled here to support us today. Myself, my mum, brother Chris, Matt's dear wife Petra, my dad Rob, and uncle, auntie, and cousins. Also, thanks to everyone who's reached out over the past 6 weeks now with messages of support and memories of Matthew. Through the tears, these messages have also made us smile. Growing up alongside Matthew was always an adventure. He was the golden child and the bonus addition to our family. Matt quickly figured out ways to get what he wanted. And when he inadvertently messed up or pushed the boundaries, he only had to break out his cheeky grin and all was forgiven. Together with Chris, the two were a force to be reckoned with. And although at times I was the brunt of their practical jokes, I have always loved them both dearly. My baby brother had a unique way of lighting up the room. Those in his orbit couldn't help but be swept up in his infectious love of life. Life was just that little bit brighter when Matthew was around. There's a famous quote by Oscar Wilde, and it goes something like this: "To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist. That is all." Matthew truly lived his life, and in the process showed so many others how to truly live too. Every day, every sunrise, every sunset, and every moment were treated as the gifts they truly were. His confidence saw him tackle things most people would shy away from. And if he wasn't sure how to do something, thanks to his affable nature, you'd never have guessed. Matthew inspired those around him to do better and be better. Thanks to Matthew, we all felt more, laughed more, smiled brighter, were stoked, thrilled, excited, and ready to take on anything with his energy beside us. Just recently, I was flipping through his passport, and most people who know me know I'm a big traveller, and I actually looked at it and I thought, damn, he's got me. To be honest, since arriving back from Italy, in many ways I've struggled to comprehend that he's no longer here, as in many ways I've become used to him living far away ever since his spirit of adventure took him overseas in 2009. There have been many times I've opened Instagram expecting to see him flying through Norway with his friends and gasp in admiration at his incredible adventures and achievements. Within his chosen sport of skydiving and wingsuit flying, life was often busy for both of us, and at times we would go weeks without talking, but there were always quick messages: love you, miss you, proud of you. And I'd always get miss you, love you too, stoked for you, sis. I'm grateful for the digital footprint he leaves behind, as I know that I'll never forget him or his voice, with so many incredible videos and photos within my grasp. I've spent a lot of time thinking about the relationship we shared. And to be honest, I think Matthew gave me more than I gave him. I may have been his big sister, but I was in awe of his strength, his courage, and his unbridled passion to pursue what he was truly here on earth to do. I took my role as his big sister seriously, perhaps too seriously at times, and was often the one to remind him when important birthdays and milestones were coming up, or to call mum when he hadn't been in touch for a while, or to tell him he hadn't cleaned up the house properly. I was the one he called when he needed anything, from help getting on a flight after he broke his ankle skydiving in Chicago, to getting a net code for his banking, or most recently, hey, what's mum and dad's date of birth? I'm doing my visa application. I remember back in 2011 when he told me he wanted to spend $10,000 to become a wind tunnel instructor. And being the big sister, my first question was, well, what are you going to get after it? And his response, because I've still got it, was, fuck how much you get paid. It's what you get to do, Amy. He's like, I don't look at the logistics. I look at the fun that will be had and the ability I'll gain. I'm going to be a master flyer. And that was that. His course was set. One of my most treasured memories with Matt was sharing a skydive together in Barwon Heads back in February 2016 when he was home for cousin Jason's wedding. I often joke it was the only message he answered in record time. and was told that if he organised it, there was no backing out, especially once I was in the plane. That day was one of the happiest of my life, grinning from ear to ear all day, so much so that Matt asked a few times if I was okay. Recently, while I was in Italy trying to make sense of the immense loss Matt's left behind, I felt strongly that I needed to take to the sky again if I was to feel his spirit. Skydiving the second time, I felt that same excitement and know there's a small piece of Matt's fearlessness and freedom in my heart. I could feel his spirit flying around Petra and I know he would have been grinning ear to ear and laughing with us. As his sister, I'm so grateful to have been gifted the years we had with Matt, and I'm so proud of the incredible human he was to those he loved. Matt would have given the shirt off his back if it could have helped someone, and so many of his friends have shared heartwarming stories with Chris, Mum and I of the ways Matt supported them through some of their most difficult days. One of his beautiful friends, Jamie, sent me a note on the impact Matt had on their lives. In her words, "Some people you just click with. Matt clicked with everyone. We all felt like his best friend. He was just one of those special humans, and you could literally feel his authenticity the moment he walked into a room. His eyes sparkled when he spoke, and his mouth was constantly side-smirking. Because of this, it didn't matter what he said. We always laughed." If there is one key takeaway we can learn from the incredible life Matthew lived, it is to embrace a life without fear and to treat every single day as the gift it truly is. Life is fragile, and living in this human skin is a privilege. And we owe it to Matthew's incredible zest for life to ensure we never sleepwalk through this one life we've been given. No one truly knows how long we have on earth, and fear of death is fear of life not lived. All our lives, we play hide and seek with death. Sometimes we try to cheat it, other times we seek it. Sometimes we forget that the journey that leads to it is what is most important. A beautiful journey will lead to a peaceful end, and no doubt it has been a beautiful journey for Matthew. I'd like to finish by sharing a quote that I think can be attributed to Steve Jobs, but who knows with social media, that sums up my brother so well. "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in a square hole, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, you can disagree with them, you can glorify or vilify them, but the one thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward, and while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Thank you for your incredible spirit, baby bro. Chris and I will strive to live a life you be proud of, and hope others who knew you will do the same. Here's to living life in your afterglow."
Alrighty. Okay, so the next section is entitled Life at Sea. Unlike Amy and I, who were quite earnest when it came to education, this was mostly Amy, not me, but maybe a little bit. Matt took school in his stride and survived on the very least possible work. At least that's how it appeared from the outside. And now as a teacher, I kind of see that an awful lot. And I see Matt in that. School was about mates and fun. Sounds familiar, eh? Alongside his best mate, Ben, he gave everything a go and had fun in the process. Somehow he did fit in schoolwork, although I doubt homework was ever completed. Yet despite his patchy commitment, as Mum said, he still smashed Year 12 his senior year and came out with an incredible result that would have given you a stable 9-to-5 career that pays handsomely. Not from that. Shortly after finishing Year 12, as Mum said, he came to that realisation it wasn't going to be for him. And so after doing some research, he came across an idea, a course to do at William Angus TAFE in Melbourne. It sounded pretty sweet. It focused on dive resort management, which basically means having fun, scuba diving, maybe making a bit of money and getting to travel all over the place. So it sounded like a pretty sweet gig. He signed up and was on his way. And while doing this, he met some really important people who became important friends in the years to come. To share some of the moments, we're lucky to have Trav with us, Travis Gillane, and there are a number of other people from that time in his life here as well. But there's a lot who couldn't make it as well. So he travelled the sea and met so many people, including his partner B, close mates Paul and Amber, Sam and Andrea, Lenny, Ben, and so many more. And so thanks, Trav, for making the trip down from Cairns to be here, and I'll hand over to you to share some experiences you had with him.
G'day, guys. So many of you know Matt as the skydiving athlete that he was, but before Matty looked to the sky, the ocean was his playground. We met just after high school, both attending the William Angles course, Dive Resort Management, both striving to run away from the norm and possibly live a life of palm trees and beaches. I can still remember the first time I met Matt. We were down on the peninsula in Victoria and we had a dorm room. We're all staying in the room and Matt walked past the door, and as he did a lot at that time, at a pelvic thrust, walked past and went, "Oh, how's it going? What's happening in here?" And that was it. Matt was part of our lives. The rest of the night, he kept us up, telling us all about his scuba diving. He'd already done his license and he was a god to us all. Over the next 2 years, we laid the foundations for a lifelong friendship and for a life lived full of adventure. We both moved north in search of work and warmer weather. Victoria is a dive instructor, not a very nice place to be. We ended up in Cairns, far north Queensland. Here we worked as dive instructors on the Great Barrier Reef and cultivated the lives that we ended up having. In our spare time, we went fishing, learned how to spearfish, and explored the rainforest. As early 20-year-olds, many nights were spent out on the town, Gilligan's and the Woolshed. And Matty, always the entertainer, would cut a rug on the dance floor in true Matty style. His dance moves, the droopy shoulder and the wallet drop, just to name a few, became famous amongst all our friends and a source of lots of laughter. Cairns, however, would not be big enough for the both of us, and we found our way into the super yacht industry. Here, we would cruise the coast of Alaska, California, and Mexico, and Matt would go on to explore the Caribbean and beyond. Through this time, Matty made many lifelong friends, some of which are here today and online as well, I believe. In this time, Matty dove with great whites. He rode motorbikes through the deserts in Mexico. He caught giant squid, tasseled with grizzly bears, tubed down glaciers, surfed Californian waves, and sailed through stormy seas. Matty mastered the ocean, and then he went on to master the skies. Whatever Matt was doing, he gave it 200% and charged. He brought an energy and a zeal everywhere he went, and when you were around him, it was impossible not to be infected with his passion for life. I've never been so proud as when I'd bring my phone out and show anybody who'd listened about my skydiving buddy. You are and you always will be an inspiration to so many. I know you're up there now, so go and find us the best waves, the richest bombies, and we can all go for a dive again. Thanks, bud.
Okay, the following is the second of 3 videos. This one carries with it the title Explorations because it was the phase in Matt's life where he realised that that invisible cord that ties us to home can actually be stretched really bloody far and everything can still be okay. And in fact, it can actually be better than okay. It can be really great, which is why he kept that cord stretched for a very long time. He found friends, he found fun, and most of all, he found a ton of fish on those adventures. And so I asked you to pay really particular attention to the size and shape of the great man during this phase of his life. He may have trimmed down for skydiving, but back then he was a unit. It must have been the buttload of tuna that provided that protein for the guns. But as they say in Australia, when the sun's out, get the guns out. And he had some impressive ones to show off.
When I was 16, my father said, you can do anything you want with your life. You just have to be willing to work hard to do it. That's when I decided when I die, I ought to be remembered for the life I lived, not the money I made.
Once upon a younger year, when all our shadows disappeared, the animals inside came out to play. Went face to face with my fears, learned our lessons through the tears, made memories we knew would never fade. One day my father, he told me, son, don't let it slip away. That's the beat, is all I heard him say. You get older, you want to live for your ways. He said one day you leave this world behind, so live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights that never die. My father told me. Carve your name into the shining stars. He said, go venture far beyond the shores. Don't forsake this life of yours. I got you home no matter where you are. One day my father, when he told me, son, don't let it slip away. When I was just a kid, I heard him say, he said, one day you leave this world behind. So live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights that never die. My father told me. My father told me.
Apparently they're off to that. You got to swallow it. It's protein. It's all protein. Think about the gun. No more wasted energy, spending the patient every hour away. Need an escape.
this place any day. Yeah, I got a calendar dates now. I mean, I ain't even waiting to bounce. You won't even hear the door, hit me on the way out. Nah, you ever notice that's how this girl? Ain't it funny how the ones who do flex just don't? Well, I mean, maybe a little, but you know, if they put on a show, we are the show. Everybody says, hi, look who's finally arrived. I'm looking for a good time. I'm just looking for the exit sign. I'm just trying to get by. And you want to make me done. I'm standing in the parking lot. I'm just looking for the exit sign. I'm like, no, I ain't even trying to check your mind. I'm only trying to check in with mine. And my friends say another dog won't stick around for the guy who's got a conversation. Every shot was a kiss. You say never leave. Somebody gets no picture. Are you simple? Are you kidding with me? You hit the floor, man. I'm sure you want to hit the door, hit the water, rush the door, the door. You never switch to get the lady bit that you can get. The parents, so you were kicked up the bachelor back. I don't give a fuck about the money. I don't give a fuck about the money. And everyone knows, you know, the only thing they give a fuck about is when you were sorry. I know this song is to nothing. To go a million ways for wasting excess time. But I got moves to make. And I ain't as self-destructive. I need to pay a lot towards the excess time. Everybody say hi. Look who's finally arrived. I'm not looking for a good time. I'm just looking for the exit sign. I'm just trying to get by. And you want to let me done. I'm standing in the parking lot. I'm just looking for the exit sign. Everybody say hi. Look who's finally arrived. I'm not looking for a good time. I'm just looking for the exit sign. I'm just trying to get by. And you want to let me done. I'm standing in the parking lot. I'm just looking for the exit sign. If you be with me, I hold you tight. Be by your side all day and all night. For once in the world, that you be my wife. But if you cheat on me, you pay with your life. You be my wife. I beg you nice. We will make love. I think you could show. To you. Since my own wife now dead.
I wanted to finish with the Borat reference there, but I had to choose very wisely with the photos because there were a couple where the Borat didn't cover it all. All right, moving on to the third phase in his life. So arguably the best thing that ever happened to Matt was being near death, which sounds strange, but after a seemingly innocuous surgery, as Mum described, he was the cat with 9 lives and he'd escaped peril many times before, but this one was pretty serious. So much so that Mum described in her earlier speech that she flew over to Dubai to live with him for a while to get him through it. It wasn't the first time Nurse Sue had come to the rescue of her kids, and it wasn't the last, but it was certainly the most dicey one to that point. So all those collapsed lungs and dodgy Middle Eastern surgeons, the story behind it. But during that minor hiccup, as he would describe it, because he always liked to downplay the injuries, he received visits from many people, and some of them were beautiful women. One who was a bedside visitor, Petra, who was a roommate of one of Matt's other female friends. She was a hostess with Emirates and an expat living in Dubai as well, in the middle of the desert, trying to make the most of what the place had to offer. He realised around that pivotal time, while he was making a full recovery back in Oz, that she was pretty awesome. And he decided when he went back, he was going to make sure that she became a girlfriend. Time spent together eventually expanded to time living together, and eventually, given Dubai's somewhat strict rules on marriage, they decided they'd split off to the Seychelles to make it official. We could all see how real it was, and I often had the privilege of sharing chats about how two blokes from Franga somehow hit the jackpot with our perfect matches. And even though I only had to travel 10 minutes up the road to Langy South to find mine, Matt's union to Petra brought two families and two nations together. My wife Sam has always maintained that love is supposed to be easy. If you're pushing shit uphill to find the good in a relationship, it's probably not the one you should hang on to. Maddie and Petch had that ease that so many dream about. They fit together like peas and carrots, as a famous saying says. And that natural is probably the only word that you could describe with their connection. Petra, we're so lucky to have you in our family and so grateful you could be here to share some words about Maddie.
My dear baby, you know how horrified I am to speak in public. When I had to do it in Italy last month, I didn't think I could do it. But right when I was bawling my eyes out, it came to my mind, this is the least I can do for you, my love. You challenged me again and showed me I can do it, as always. So here I am again reading my letter to you, my darling. Few weeks passed since I saw you for the last time, and it doesn't get any easier. No, it doesn't. I still miss you extremely, and I still find it hard to believe you are not here anymore. I still hope you will turn up one day, as if you came back from your summer adventure with the boys. My brain refuses to accept it, but my heart knows. It hurts very much. Even though this is all too hard, sad, and painful right now, one thing I realize is how lucky I was. You came into my life. You gave me so much love, laughter, joy, and many, many life lessons. I will forever cherish all the small and big moments we lived together for past 8 years. July 2014 was when we first met. It was a Tinder date in Irish village in Dubai. When I saw you, I didn't know I'll end up marrying you, that's for sure, but I felt something very special coming from you. This beautiful positive energy and your massive smile, bigger than your head. I don't know what was it exactly, but I remember thinking to myself, this guy is pretty cool. I think I'm gonna hang out with him. June 2015, a year later, you took me for a weekend to Fujairah and asked me to be your girlfriend, and I agreed. For the first year of our relationship, I couldn't understand half of the things you were saying. Yeah. Using your special slang, but somehow you always made me laugh really hard, and I liked that. At some point, I decided to get the Aussie slang dictionary, which helped a little bit, but for the most of it, I just had to listen and learn, because you love to make your own stuff up. I was very relieved when your colleagues at work, who by the way were native English speakers, asked me if I understood you, because they didn't. That was the day I realized that you were truly very special. April 2016, we moved in together, and at some point this year we figured we could get married, so you can get a good deal on my flight tickets with Emirates as my husband. And we can travel together for very cheap. I already knew how much you loved a good deal.
2 for 1.
Normal. I pretended to be cool and acted like it was purely practical reason to get you cheap tickets, but in reality, I was excited to marry you. January 2017, we went to Seychelles to get married, just you and me. It was supposed to be our little secret, but you were so excited you couldn't just keep it to yourself. So you told your mumsy, your family, and some of your closest friends. September 2018, we went to Nepal to hike the Annapurna base camp. I thought it was just another adventure we went on together, but you planned something much more special for this trip. Once we got to the top of Annapurna base camp, you went down onto your knee and handed me a diamond ring. I was confused because I thought we already were married. But you wanted to make it right and official. You even sent an email to my dad in Czech that you Google translated to ask him for his permission. Your mumsy told you to get me a ring, so you did as a good boy. Thank you, mumsy. So you made me feel special in 4,130 meters above sea level. Your mum told me later you called her to a conference to help you choose the ring, as you had no experience in choosing one.
Sent me lots of pictures. Which one? Which one?
July 2019, we got married one more time, this time in front of our families and friends, and it was one of the best days in my life, and I know yours too. Baby, you showed me how much one can love, and I never loved or felt loved so much before. You are so fucking special. You inspired me with your kindness and care for everyone around you. You would do literally anything for your friends and family, even for people you didn't know that much, just to make sure everybody is having a great time. You always used to say, "It's nice to be nice," and I will always remember this. I loved your encouragement and belief in me. You always pushed my limits and showed me I can do it. And even though I didn't enjoy your military orders on our hikes, I was always so happy that I really made it to the top of the mountain with you. And you would always say, I'm so proud of you, babe. And I know you really were. You just always knew what to say to keep me going, especially when I was being lazy ass and pretending I was tired after the flight, and I really was. But you always try to motivate me and make sure I don't get fat. Otherwise, I was gonna be sent to a fat camp. You just always believed in me. When you used to say, "Nah, babe, you're gonna be all right," I knew I was gonna be all right. You always put me first and protected me no matter what. Remember when we got kicked out of the nightclub in Nepal? When someone tried to dance with me, you were so quick by my side, pushing him away. And somehow, in a split second, we ended up in a ball of Nepalese bouncers. And a few seconds later, on the street, where you walked into the pole and split your forehead open. For me. And you made me feel special again. What a fun night. You were so strong, physically and mentally. I always felt like you were a human with special powers. So connected to the nature, to the ocean, to the air, to the mountains. So beautiful, kind, loving, caring, and humble. That day, you saved my ass cat surfing because I couldn't get back to the shore. I lost my board, and somehow you managed to come and get me and direct me to the shore. You saved my board, and you saved me. That day, I got in a lot of trouble with you. But you absolutely amazed me again, how you handled it all, and you never brought it up again. You never made fun of me. You never mentioned it in front of our friends to tease me. And that just shows what a strong and beautiful person you were. From the first day I met you, I loved your contagious energy. God, you made me laugh so much. I always felt we had something very special together, and that will stay with me forever. I feel blessed you chose me to be your wife, and I thank you for the best 8 years. April 2022, we finally left Dubai and moved to Europe to get ready for the summer trip. We stayed 6 weeks in Czech Republic, where you built our dream van. Baby, you nailed it again. You did such a great job. You impressed me again and everyone else around you. You built it all by yourself, and it is pimp juice, as you would say. I'm so proud of you, my darling. I only wish we had more time to enjoy the yellow breeze together. My baby, a big part of me died with you. I'm not sure who will catch my board when I go kite surfing, but I guess I'll finally have to learn to catch it myself. I'm not sure who will carry my heavy backpack when I'm out of breath on the hike, but I guess I'll just pack light. I'm not sure who will fix our van when it breaks, but I guess I'll find a mechanic. I'm not sure who will put an eye patch on my eyes before sun comes and wakes me up in the morning, but I guess I'll just get used to it. I'm not sure who will I talk to about life over a cold tin, but I guess I can still do that with you, right, my baby? I'm just not sure who will make me laugh every day. But hey, babe, our dear friend told me recently, it's not Matt's responsibility to make us happy or make us laugh. It's our own responsibility to live, to laugh, and to be happy. And I know he's right. And I know you would agree with him. I miss you heaps, but I know you are here with me in spirit, in my heart forever. And I feel you through your beautiful family here in Australia and your amazing friends from all over the world who give me a massive support because they all loved you so much. And I thank you for arranging that for me. It makes it a little bit easier. Forever grateful for getting to know you, being your wife, and learning from you about life for the whole 8 years. I promised you in Italy I will never stop living. I will live, move forward, and I'll make you proud again, I promise. Love you forever, your fox, your blood, your patch, and all other weird names you gave me.
Now, stay here. Now, where did she put it? Petra's sister Marketa sent me a message which she would like me to read. Here we go. So she says, few words from Marketa, sister of Petra, and the Czech family. It was in Nepal at 4,130 metres above sea level. The sun was rising and it was unforgettable. That moment when Matt and his friend Shabi both kneeled in front of their girls to ask if they would marry them. Double proposal at the Annapurna base camp. And then followed that beautiful moment full of love and relief when the girls said yes. Matt was in such a stress in the preceding days, like there would be any chance of Petra saying no. Why would she, when their souls were just the perfect match? And so later on, they became husband and wife, the connection that made them inseparable. Matt had become part of our family, and we were happy that Petra had found such a good man. Always in positive spirit, smiling, standing by her side, no matter what. He was so full of life and energy, making Petra smile from the bottom of her heart. The adventures they have experienced together will be here forever to cherish. During the last month, the month of May, when they spent their time in Czech Republic, we would often sit with Petra in the morning, enjoying our coffee and slowly getting ready for another day. Matt would come, having already run a few kilometres, worked on the van a little bit, and just generally being much ahead of us in his day. He would stand in the window and tease Petra, laughing, "You are late for work. Worst employee ever. Come, I have a task for you." He was just like this, hardworking man, giving it all or nothing. That's why he managed to create that beautiful van in such a short time, and no one could believe it. Now when Matt can only watch from above, he must be proud how Petra had finished the work on their dream house on wheels to celebrate his memory. She brought it upon herself as a duty to finish what he had started and learn to drive it fearlessly, all to honour his memory and fulfil his dreams. Matt is no longer here to join in the ride, but he will be in our hearts always. Dear Matt, thank you for everything. We miss you deeply and we'll never forget about you. We promise we will try to take the best care of Petra, though it seems like an impossible mission now without you. Love you, Marketa and family.
So do I call Sal up? Yeah, that's what I just did. So yeah, and we'll be back in business in a second. Alrighty. So that's Marquetta up there with her sister and Matt. Obviously a recent trip over, having fun as always. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Today we were lucky enough from afar to have some video testimonials from friends and very close friends of Matt's from overseas. So I'm going to jump ahead to those. So when I was putting the call out for content, it was super hard to cull all of the things that I received. So it was over 2,500 photos and almost as many videos and just clips and all sorts of things. So the last couple of videos, you could see I was trying to cram in as much as I could. The next one's slightly longer. But before we get to that, we have some words from first Shani Cooch, Suze Padma, and Jamie, who have shared some words about Matt. So I'll play those ones for you now.
Hi everyone, my name is Shani. I'm one of Matt's many friends. We met in Dubai. I found it really hard to find the right words to say, and so I've written them down, and I hope you can all forgive me for reading it. This is how it has to be. To summarize someone like Matt into just a few short sentences, that's next to impossible. So here we go. We are part of a very special community. We meet a lot of people. We share the sky together, the mountains. We travel to the most beautiful places on this earth. We live in the present moment often and experience freedom unlike anything else. Because of this shared passion for life, we build strong friendships and connections. We also suffer loss far too often, and our grief is a reflection of how fiercely we love. I feel loss and a deep sadness, but I also feel grateful. I am so thankful for having had Matt as my friend, and when it starts to feel heavy, I try to remember that. Matt had a passion for flying, there's no doubt about it, but he also had a passion for life, for sharing the stoke and bringing good energy everywhere he went. I watched him chase his dreams, frothing all the way. He took every opportunity to learn and be the best version of himself. He had a big heart and never failed to make everyone laugh. I always got a kick out of watching him talk to people he had just met, and they'd be smiling and nodding and have no idea what he just said. Matt and my late husband, Micah, were fast friends. They both shared an infectious energies. Matt helped me so much when my husband died, and in doing so, he witnessed me find my way in life again. I'm glad he was there to see that, because I know it will give him some peace now, understanding that it's possible for all the people he loves that are still here. Today we celebrate his life, but we can do this every day by talking about him, sharing stoke, telling stories, being grateful, remembering his energy, and enjoying every moment we can together. You beauty. I love you, Chloe. Story from there's lots of good stories from that, and I just really think of Matt, and one of the stories that was for me the most touching, but also important one is that when my husband died in 2019, he was one of the best friends from Matt, and I flew over to Australia, and then I stopped in Dubai and visited Matt and Petra. And Petra had to work, but Matt was like taking me in her phones and said, yeah, you can stay and we come together, whatever, and I will get you in a better mood. And then basically yeah, it started off with, I'd say only one night, and we went out this night. At first we wanted to jump, but then the winds were too strong, and we went out for some drinks, and like Matt said to me, did you ever have a margarita with beer? And I was like, no, never, and it sounded actually really terrible. And he said, oh, you should really try it. It's really good. And then he poured all of us, like it was a few friends coming as well, a margarita. Like the margarita was as big as my head, and a whole bottle of beer was stuck in the margarita. It came with 5 straws, but we didn't drink it, 5 of us. No, everyone had their own margarita. We've been drinking since my husband died, so I was like, oh my God, let's see how that goes. And we cheered, and we had a really good time, and we really made me forget a little bit my sorrows. And then, yeah, we drank all this margarita with beer, but it didn't get laughed. Like, we just were drinking, and the beer was like filling it up again and again. And the only one who finished it was actually Matt. Right. I mean, it wasn't far away from his place. It was only maybe a 10-minute drive, but still, like, nobody could finish it, but he finished it. And I was so drunk, and then I got very emotional, and I was sitting in the car, and I already started to cry a lot. And when we were back home at his place, Petra was sleeping, and we were sitting in the living room, and we were talking about Christian, like all the stories about Christian, and I just couldn't stop crying. I cried so much, and then he just cried with me. It was for me so important, because I knew how much he meant for him as well. And then we were just both sitting on his couch and having a big cry together. And also laughed in between, because we shared so many fun stories.
Fear of death is fear of life not lived, not truly lived. All our lives we play hide and seek with death. Sometimes we try to cheat it, other times we seek it. Sometimes we forget that the journey that leads to it is what's really important. A beautiful journey will lead to a peaceful end. And damn, what a beautiful journey it has been with our growing Matt. His footprints are everywhere. The quantity of his life is less than we hoped, but the quality is more than we could possibly imagine. There are only a handful of people in this world that live as fully and as passionately as Matt did. And this is something to be so, so, so thankful for. After all, isn't that what life is really about? To live passionately and fully without restriction and restraint? Oscar Wilde once said, "To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that is all." Matt didn't just live. He showed so many others how to live too. He treated every day, every hour, every minute like the gift life really is. And people noticed. And people changed around him. We were all better humans standing next to him. We laughed more, we felt more, we smiled more, we were stoked, thrilled, excited, ready to charge and take on anything. He might be gone, but his impact on our lives isn't going anywhere. I am overwhelmed with thankfulness for being gifted the opportunity to develop such a friendship with Matt. Some people you just click with. Matt clicked with everyone. We all felt like his best friend. He was just one of those special human beings that you could literally feel his authenticity and knew he was genuine when he walked into a room. His eyes actually sparkled when he spoke, and he couldn't help it, but his mouth would constantly be side smirking. Because of this, it didn't matter what he said, we always laughed. He could say, "I'm hungry, let's get lunch." And we would all be bent over, holding our stomachs, cracking up. He just generated that kind of openness, fun, honest, kind, loving, friendly, hilarious energy that would pump up everyone's soul he came across. People like this are rare, and Matt was the ultimate gemstone. It's because of this that he'll never truly be gone. After all, how could he be when he lived so tightly in our hearts? We owe him so much. He wasn't just a really good guy. He was a great man. Matt, you might be gone physically, but your way of living life will continue to encourage us to overcome our own mountains and to take that leap into the unknown with a big smile on our face. I promise your spirit that we will never stop laughing. I promise that we will continue to share your sparkly energy everywhere we go. So raise a glass to our dear Matt, a true legend. And we all know legends never die.
Okay, I had a whole section on translations, but given the amount of time that the video, I know the last video is going to take, I'm just going to skip through them, but you'll probably recognise some of these up here. So that's one, your mum's your dad and your dad's your mum. That has a historical context. Cooter's another saying that he had. This one is one of my favourites. Hands off cocks, put on socks. Lapa Kenyami Winhouse, I don't know why he picked that up from a video we watched one day, but he used it all the time. Kipper, which many of you may know as sleep, going full noise. This was the catch cry. You heard it every 5 minutes in most videos. Yeah, the girls. Glamour. This one, but pronounced differently. No, it's Kunti. It's almost French. And then donuts and yellow donuts. Yellow donuts being the sun and donuts being you get nothing. Check the oil. Yeah, this one has a visual that goes with it. If you imagine checking the volume of oil in a car and then relate that to the human reproductive process, that kind of gets the idea across. A face melter. And this is a sample message for my 2020 birthday.
Happy birthday, Lapa Kenya and your thin house.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Hands off cocks, put on socks. What are you doing, mate? You fucking going alright, mate? Are you going alright? How's mum? She's still freaking out about the virus. Locked yeah. How's things? Are you good? How's the kids? Did they look after you good? You get some presents. What presents did you get? Yes, mate.
So yeah, I know you'll all have a stack of voice messages. If you listen back on any of them, you need some help with translation, shoot me a message. I'm happy to help. Mum would often come to me with those punctuation-free paragraphs and say, "What's he talking about here? What does that mean? Was that a good thing or a bad thing?" And so yeah, I'm happy to help. I'm going to change up the order of things a little bit, and we'll finish with the video because it is quite a long one. And so I'll skip over this. As I kind of ran through the memorial in my head over the past 5 weeks on pretty much an endless loop, I came to the realization this week in particular that we're missing just one story. And I realised it wouldn't sit right with me if we ended things without filling the void. So before my daughter and I conclude the service, I just wanted to recognise the story of Matt and Nick. For the first 17 years of Matt's life, as I mentioned earlier, our brotherhood was a pretty big factor. I was, I guess you'd call it the yin to his yang. We were kind of the opposite, and it created a perfect balance. My conservative, somewhat risk-averse views levelled out some of his fearless effervescence, just a touch, but not too much. And he encouraged me to look beyond the potential and just get into things, as he'd always say, because I was always, a little bit more risk-averse than he was. In his last 10 years, I watched the same perfect balance created with Nick. Like two perfect puzzle pieces that just fit together and proved that it was possible for there to be more than one unstoppable duo in the skydiving and base community. So Fred and Vince met Matt and Nick. Make no mistake, Nick, you're more than a best mate to Matt. You were his brother. And it was great comfort to all of us to know that he had someone who was family away from home. I remember clearly a conversation I had with him in 2019 where he insisted to me that you were much better at what you both did than he was. In his words, you just didn't boast about it. If you thought it impossible to find a more humble talent than Matt, then you were wrong. As I've watched you head back to the mountains in the last few weeks, Nick, I know that Matt would be so bloody happy to see this. Your time together was a journey where fun times matched and often outweighed the goal-orientated challenge that you both embraced. He would always beam the brightest about the jumps that he described as the fun jumps with Nick. Without you, he wouldn't have achieved the things that he did in those final years. And I know that was mutually beneficial and that you would attest to the same. I hope you can find joy in the moments going forward. And maybe one day you can fill that vacancy by your side at the exit. I know that whatever happens, Matty will be on your shoulder for every jump, cheering you on and reminding you of your greatness and the title that he gave you, the King Kunta of the wingsuit. And this was just a picture that Jamie captured last week. Nick's in the middle with Matty at the top. To finish today's memorial speeches, my 12-year-old daughter Isabel requested a chance to say a few words. She and her brother Cohen were incredibly grateful to be his niece and nephew, and they so very lucky to have him as their one and only Uncle Shaz, as he was named. I think it fitting that the next generation in the family closes out stories today because it is they who have the longest to live ahead and forge in his footsteps that he left behind in his legacy. Ready?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Isabel. I am Matt's niece, and today I'm going to share with you the memories that I had with Matt. I didn't see him often. The times I did see him, we definitely made the most of it. He used to play soccer with my brother and swim in the pool with me. He's a very brave and humorous man. We would always laugh and play together. He taught me to be brave, that I could do anything I put my mind to. I can succeed in anything I put my mind to. I have many great memories with Matt, like 2 years ago when he was over for Christmas. We were meant to be having a nice family dinner. But with Matt, it wasn't only fancy. It was fun and entertaining. He knew how to bring out the best in everyone. And that was all the traits of one person. He always knew how to bring a smile or a little laugh to our faces. His personality was infectious. So let's all live our lives to the fullest just like Matt did.
So I guess the essence of today is about relishing the part we each played in a glorious life. I think we've done that justice, and every photo you stood in, laugh you shared, is captured in your hearts and in the memories that you'll carry forth. I guess the deeper message, though, behind this is undeniably about the value of time. Time, for me, is a challenging concept. Less than 100 years ago, Einstein endeavoured to make sense of the concepts of space and time through his theory of relativity. I have no idea if any of it's connected, but 3 years ago, I embarked on my own journey of understanding these concepts and have read widely on it. I like to think that somehow there's a non-linear reality where time doesn't have to go in a straight line. when maybe it's possible to go back to the 1st of June and stand in Austria and come up with a creative reason for the 2nd of June to never take place. Until then, though, we have to recognise that in this linear reality, time, as we understand it, is precious. With the rising of each sunrise, we're all given a choice about how we spend the hours between our last and our next resting periods. It's pretty clear that to achieve all the amazing, wondrous things Matt did in his 35 years, there wasn't a minute wasted. When that alarm goes off in the morning, don't hit snooze unless it's grab a couple of extra minutes in the arms of someone you love. Instead, spring up at sunrise and start your day. The idea there's so much worth heading out for. And when fear tries to get in the way of you taking a risk, rest assured that a half life lived to the full is far more impactful than a full life half lived. All right, I'm going to play the video, the last video. It does go for about 15 minutes, so please enjoy. I tried to cut it down, but there was so much to pack into that final video.
Follow the sun, which way the wind blows when this day is done. Breathe, breathe in the air, set your intentions, dream with care. Tomorrow's a new day for everyone. A brand new moon, brand new sun. Follow the sun, the direction of the birds, direction of love. Breathe in the air, cherish this moment, cherish this breath. Tomorrow's a new day for everyone. Brand new moon, brand new sun. When you feel life coming down on you like a heavy weight, when you feel this crazy society adding to the strain, take a stroll to the nearest water's edge. Remember your place. Many moons have risen and fallen long before you came. So which way is the wind blowing? What does your heart say? Follow the sun, which way the wind goes, and this day is done. Gravity's holding me back. I want you to hold out the phone. Why don't we leave it in there? Nothing to say, and everything gets in the way. It seems you can never be replaced, and I'm the one who stays. Oh, in this world, it's just us. You know it's not the same as it was. In this world, it's just us. You know it's not the same as it was. As it was. As it was. You know it's not the same as it before. How do you know when you're wrong? Why are you sitting home? What kind of pills are you on? Ringing the bell, nobody's coming to help. Your daddy is missing. Just wants to know that you're well. Oh, in this world, it's just us. You know it's not the same as it was. In this world, it's just us. You know it's not the same as it was. As it was. As it was. You know it's not the same. Oh yeah. Coming up. Come on, brother. It's so bright. Get off this bucket.
Yeah. Too much. Yeah, brother. Eat it, boys. Yeah. Just for you forever, bitch. That's it.
I got tired sitting around, quit my job now, leaving town. Oh, I was done being bossed around. I won't let my name hold me down. Don't sell my shit on eBay. 200 when I'm on the freeway. I wanna hear my songs on the replay. Oh la la life's too short to be worried. Maybe let's get to work. We only go to what makes us happy. Maybe this life's too short. Oh la la life. Oh life. Oh la la life. Too short. Oh la la life. Oh la la life, too short. And now I'll wait another night. Turn my phone off, free my mind. I do whatever feeling right. So I'm gonna sleep now with a smile. So when I think I'm gonna be it, Mama said never stop dreaming. I'm gonna leave my songs on replay. Oh la la, life's too short to be worried. Maybe let's get to work. We only go to what makes us happy. Maybe this life's too short. Oh la la, life. Oh la la life, too short. Oh la la life. Oh la la life, too short. So I say no regrets, nothing more and nothing less. No, give and forget. I said no regrets. Nothing more and nothing less. Ain't no better way to live. La la life's too short to be worried. Baby, let's get to work. We only go to what makes us happy. Baby, this life's too short. Oh la la life. Oh la la life. Too short. Oh la la life. Oh life. Oh la la life. Too short. Oh la la life. Oh life. Oh la la life's too short. Stop road now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh my God, I'm swallowing a tail. Why you thought I had In the fading light, hearts collide, shadows dance in the distance. Something just ain't right, I'm cold inside. Help me find what I'm missing. We're all scared to fight, still we try. Learn to be brave, see the other side. Don't you leave me there, have no fear. Close your eyes, find paradise. Oh my, there's 1,000 miles between you and I. When the dark has gone, the morning's won, we're gonna feel something different. We'll set you free, you just tell me every secret I listen. We're all scared to fly, still we try. Learn to be brave, see the other side. Don't you leave me there, have no fear. Close your eyes, find paradise, paradise, paradise. Close your eyes, find paradise, paradise, paradise. Close your eyes, find paradise. Miss your touch some nights when I'm high. I know you must have breaks that I can't follow. Since the love that you left is all that I get, I want you to know that if I can't be close to you, I settle for the ghost of you. I miss you more than life. And if you can't be next to me, your memories ecstasy. I miss you more than life. I miss you more than life. God thinks there's always tomorrow. I need more time, but time can't be bought. I leave it all behind if I could follow. Since the love that you left is all I get, I want you to know that if I can't be close to you, I settle for the ghost of you. I miss you more than life. Yeah. And if you can't be next to me, your memories ecstasy. I miss you more than life. I miss you more than life. I settle for the ghost of you. I miss you more than life. And if you can't be next to me, your memory is ecstasy. I miss you more than life. I miss you more than life.
Okay, so thank you so much, guys, for coming, and that concludes the formal part of the service. But as I look around the room, I know that there are people in the same room who haven't been together for decades, some for years, but certainly for a long time. And so, yeah, make the most of time you have together now. We've got food and drink, and hopefully we can channel a bit of Matt, have a bit of fun and a laugh, finish off the day. Thank you very much. And thanks, guys.
Oh my God.